Crawford, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to today's senior speech. Here to put some intangibles into words, I present May Wallace Baker. May Wallace is joined today by her parents, Vic and Jennifer Baker, her younger sisters, Clara and Isabella, as well as a host of family friends. May Wallace's grandmothers are joining us virtually, as well as her older brother, Jack, who is supporting his sister from Athens. Go Dogs! It is a real pleasure to welcome them here today. I've known May Wallace most of her life. She spent enchanted afternoons in the same wooded park as my children and played rec soccer with my daughter. Even as a 6-year-old, May showed a special aptitude for soccer, and she has dedicated the past 12 years to playing for Augusta Arsenal. While club wins and high school championships are special, there is nothing quite so sweet as snack time after a game at the Y. After joining our student body in the 8th grade, May Wallace made herself right at home. She is a 5-year member of Prep's varsity soccer team, a 4-year member of Prep's varsity basketball team. She runs for the track team, serves as VP on student council. She keeps active in the student community as a co-president for FCS and student section. She works with the service club as well as School for Schools. Oh yes, May also studies from time to time and serves our community through NHS. This accomplished student demonstrated grace on the dance floor as a member of Cotillion her sophomore year, and she's active as a church middle school youth leader. May Wallace loves to babysit in her free time, and she claims to have seen every episode of Little House on the Prairie more times than Grey's Anatomy. Today, she will channel some of Half Pint's determination, and she will present her thoughts on nonverbal communication. Please help me welcome her to the stage.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford, for that kind introduction. You were always my favorite person to see after swim meet since you were serving the nachos. I would like to thank my parents for all their love and support, my grandmothers for praying me through today, and my siblings for being my best friends. I would also like to thank my teachers and coaches for your dedication and extra efforts both in the classroom and on the field. Criminal Minds, NCIS Los Angeles, Miami, New Orleans, Hawaii, Chicago PD, Psych, White Collar, multiple law and orders, the list goes on. Have you ever wondered why there are so many crime shows? On television, in podcasts, and in other forms of media, crime shows account for nearly 25% of all broadcasts. Research indicates a key aspect of this is due to our interest in human behavior. A fascinating aspect of human behavior, particularly in these shows, is learning about nonverbal communication, or body language, as it is more commonly known. I think most of us would say we have some knowledge of body language. We've certainly heard our parents remind us to stand up straight or stop rolling our eyes, right? Those are obvious examples, but maybe, like me, you didn't know that experts say 70 to 90% of all our communication is nonverbal. That's a lot of eye rolling. Seriously though, think about those numbers, 70 to 90%, which means inversely as little as 10% of our communication is verbal. You may be surprised by all the subtle gestures you use in your day-to-day life. You likely are not even aware of them, yet they have a huge impact on your interactions. Look at these images. Think of the first word that comes to mind when you see each one. What do you feel when you see this picture? What about this one? If we had more time, it would be interesting to see how many of you name the same word to each image. Today, I will share with you the basics of nonverbal communication. We will also look at some of the science behind understanding nonverbal behavior to help you achieve a deeper, more meaningful view of the world around you. So, what exactly is nonverbal communication? The Help Guide defines nonverbal communication as the use of physical behavior, expressions, and mannerisms to communicate nonverbally, often done instinctively rather than consciously. But sometimes it is conscious.
Oh, okay, so you're going now. I'm going to go in exactly 10 minutes. We have never met each other. We are complete strangers, right? Also, we're going to need a signal to bolt out of there in case there is danger. And that signal is lick your lips. Try it. No, like this. Ready to do this? Yeah. All right. Here come the sharks.
Let's look at 7 different forms of nonverbal communication we participate in on the daily. The first is facial expressions. Our face is an expressive canvas for emotions such as happiness, sadness, anger, excitement, and stress, to name just a few. These expressions are universal, understood across cultures and generations. Consider this image from 9/11. The photographer captured the fear, sadness, and shock felt by individuals from all walks of life. The second form of nonverbal communication is our body movement. How we walk, how we stand, and how we sit send clear messages to those around us. Like these contrasting images, for example. Our posture accounts for the majority of our nonverbal communication. Similar to body movement, yet more specific, is the third nonverbal, gestures. Gestures consist of pointing with our finger, throwing our hands up when we are angry, or a thumbs up to indicate all good. Unlike our facial expressions, gestures are not always universal. So I asked Pedro something about Americans do that is completely different than in his home country of Brazil. He said, "This sign here in the US means okay, right? In Brazil, this is like showing the middle finger." Therefore, when traveling internationally, you want to be especially aware of your gestures so you're not saying something unintentionally. Fourthly, eye contact. Thanks to Mr. Jive's numerous reminders to keep our masks over the nose and under the chin, I think we've all taken eye contact to a new level over the past year. Discreetly trying to share something with a friend during class has become significantly more challenging when limited to only seeing each other's eyes. Aside from masks, eye contact is another way of communicating anything from joy and happiness to disinterest or distress. We all know that feeling to be having a conversation with someone who's looking somewhere else, seemingly uninterested. On the other hand, if you're talking to someone and they're staring into your soul, you likely feel really uncomfortable and perhaps creeped out. Thus, appropriate eye contact makes a big difference in your interactions. A crucial part of nonverbal communication, which is often overlooked, is touch. I think we can all relate to experiencing the infamous dead fish handshake at some point in time, or the warmth of receiving a big hug, or the awkward side hug, a tight grip on your arm when you're in trouble, or an encouraging pat on the back. All of these things involve touch, and all of these send very clear messages. How many of you have had to take a step back while in a conversation when your personal space has been invaded? How we position ourselves in relation to distance is one of the most significant nonverbal cues in our society. Space is the sixth form of nonverbal communication. Lastly, our tone of voice can completely change the meaning of what we are verbally saying. For 18 years now, my mom has told me when I'm talking to my sisters that it's not what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. And as tired as I get of hearing this, it remains true. With every word we speak, those listening interpret our tone to read deeper into what we are saying. In different situations, we try to match tone, volume, confidence, and speed. For example, at a party, you may talk louder and faster than if you're in a formal dinner setting. These 7 nonverbal cues are simple and obvious, yet when we examine the neuroscience behind them, we begin to see the complexity of what is actually happening. The part of our brain called the limbic system is responsible for our behavioral and emotional responses, and most importantly, for our survival. All our actions and surroundings are assessed by our limbic brain and occur in real time, with no conscious thought required. Princeton psychologists in a recent study have found it takes as little as 1/10 of a second to form an impression of a stranger, oftentimes not just for likability, but more often if we perceive them to be dangerous. One of the critical outlets of the limbic brain survival techniques include the 3 F's of nonverbal communication, which you are likely already familiar with. The first F, freeze, is used in avoiding detection from people and things we perceive as predatory. We as humans instinctively freeze when we hear a loud noise such as a swell water bottle hitting the ground during an exam, or when you suddenly see a car zooming towards you as you're walking across the street. We We freeze as a means to allow time for our brain to assess the situation and determine the best course of action to remove us from the danger. The second F is flight. Our flight response immediately kicks in when freezing isn't enough. Most of us would turn and run from the danger in an attempt to create distance from us and the harmful element. Additionally, there are more subtle ways of fight response, which we may be unaware of, such as leaning away from someone who is invading your personal space or turning your feet away as a signal you are uncomfortable and ready to leave either a conversation or situation. When all else fails, we turn to our third and final F, fight. In severe cases, this may mean an actual physical altercation, but in civilized society, fight is generally expressed through dominant behaviors that intimidate, such as posturing, and often lead to another fight technique, such as argument. It is critical to understand that the brain controls all behaviors, whether conscious or subconscious. Our limbic brain never rests. It is always working. This is why Joe Navarro, former FBI counterintelligence special agent with 25 years of experience and widely regarded as the leading expert in nonverbal communication, consistently encourages his audiences not to diminish that feeling of uneasiness they sense in certain situations. He would contend it is the limbic brain at work, subconsciously recognizing nonverbal cues that the conscious mind may not be detecting. Thus, he would say, you never have a social obligation to become a victim. Navarro developed what we now know as the Behavioral Analysis Unit of the FBI, as featured in Criminal Minds. If only all the victims in the numerous crime dramas mentioned earlier had the benefit of Navarro's knowledge, as well as our new understanding of the importance of nonverbal communication. Thank you.